Welcome, everybody, to Conversations That Matter. We have a very special guest for you today. Her name is Peggy Mast. She was a state legislator in Kansas, got first elected in 1997, and served almost 20 years in the legislature. In fact, she served in numerous leadership positions. And when she left, she was actually the Speaker pro tem. Incredible career serving the people of Kansas. She also was on the Judiciary Committee and learned quite a bit about criminal law and some of the threats that were facing the people of her state and also the people of America. That led her to join the group Understanding the Threat, which is sounding the alarm about the terrorism threat in the United States, the threat of jihad and Sharia. Today, specifically, we want to talk to Peggy in particular about the wave of pro-abortion terrorism that's wreaking havoc across our country in the wake of Roe versus Wade being overturned. Peggy, thank you so much for joining us. And to start with, why do you think we're seeing this increase in terror? Do these people think this is going to be an effective tactic, burning down pro-life centers and things? What are they thinking?
Obviously, they think it's going to be an effective tactic, but it's not just about abortion clinics. It's not just about abortion. The reality is I infiltrated a pro-no, if you could say, so say no in regards to the pushback that the pro-life community is giving in Kansas, my home state. And I found out that they were promoting Black Lives Matter. George Floyd was a saint. They were talking about the EPA and how we needed to we need to protect Mother Earth. They talked about any Trump supporter was a fascist. All of the language that they were using at that pro-abortion rally and demanding that they wanted free abortion on demand, which is something that we've never had in America. But
by free, they mean taxpayer funded, I guess.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, they want what Canada has. And so, it was promoting all kinds of extreme ideas. I noticed right away that the LGBT community is really involved in this. So it's not just abortion. This is a movement that I would say, the sad part about it is it definitely is terrorism. They're now paying people to report where the Supreme Court justices are eating a meal in peace or where their residences are so they can intimidate, threaten, coerce. They believe that if they push back hard enough, that they can create a world without law. That's the end goal, that the perfect communist, if you look at the Antifa 10 points, it includes just basically a land with no rules. And, there's going to be justice because we're all such good people by heart, actually. I haven't noticed that myself, but they seem to believe that, even though they're willing to do horrible things to try to coerce. And they're being useful idiots for a greater cause, one that is being encouraged and pushed by individuals like our own president, who says, keep the protests up. So it's hard to believe that we have leadership in America right now that seem to be more desirous of the demise of our republic. They're claiming this is a democracy. It is a republic. Benjamin Franklin said it was a republic, and we pledge allegiance to the republic. But they claim it's a democracy. Thomas Jefferson said democracy is mob rule, and that's what they want.
Yeah, it truly is terrifying. And I agree, they do seem to be trying to break down our legal institutions and our system of order and liberty. You mentioned that they're being useful idiots. Who is playing them? Who's behind the curtain funding this and calling the shots?
I mean, it's big money and it's big organizations. And I would say there's even foreign involvement in regards to that. When you think about the Black Lives Matter being birthed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that they actually claim themselves. I mean, Patrisse Cullors is on video saying that her and others like her are trained Marxists. Mm-hmm. And they were actually trained at the Socialist Liberation Organization right there in Minnesota, which is a front for the Chinese Communist Party movement. So this is, I think about the people that are so idealistic, thinking that a one world government is going to solve and cure everything.
Hmm.
Another irony I see, the people that were at this protest that I went to in disguise, uh, because a lot of people around there would know me, but they were at the same time they're saying my body, my choice. They are wanting us to, to abide by mandates that force us to put on masks or get an injection for a disease that has a low mortality rate for healthy individuals. So it's pretty ironic, and it's really tragic that these people are so blinded.
Yeah, my body, my choice. If I'm going to kill my baby, who's of course not my body, but not my body, my choice. If I got to inject some mRNA experimental thing, unbelievable, absolutely. Peggy, it's crazy. Before he passed away, Rich Higgins was serving as the director of policy and planning at the National Security Council for Donald Trump. And he wrote the infamous memo. And I think a lot of people were taken by surprise. The fake media even tried to ridicule it, like, oh, look how cute Donald Trump's senior security officials think there's some kind of conspiracy against him. But he pointed out, I think, something very profound. There seems to be collaboration between internationalists and jihadists and communists and socialists. And Higgins said their goal was not just to destroy America as a nation, but even to destroy it as an ideal. Talk us through that a little bit. Why would these groups that seemingly have such different ideas, like, jihadists, they think we ought to throw homosexuals off of buildings, and then homosexuals, don't want that. And yet they're collaborating together, it seems, in the destruction of our country. Why is that?
Well, I think that, and Rich Higgins is absolutely right. It's the demise of our country, and it didn't start just recently, even though we're looking at it as starting with, look at Occupy Wall Street. I looked at Occupy Wall Street that started up shortly after the Arab Spring. Isn't it interesting that Obama was supporting the Muslim Brotherhood in the Arab Spring? And Occupy Wall Street started up, and the same kind of individuals were involved in it. When I Googled Muslims at Occupy Wall Street, I saw them leading chants and all this kind of stuff with the same people that you say they abhor. I mean, and they dislike individuals that don't have faith. They respect the people of the book, they say, which would be the Jews and the Christians, but the people that are despotic, they don't respect, but they'll work with them because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And what Rich Higgins said, I mean, the FBI actually has reports, and I've read them, where they knew that some of the individuals that are working with Occupy Wall Street or Antifa have actually gone and trained with ISIS and learned how to use weapons. So this is not peaceful protests. It was never intended to be peaceful protests. And the only thing I can equate it to is if you look at what Adolf Hitler used before he took control of Germany, he used the brown shirts to create anarchy. These are anarchists, and they're self-proclaimed, and they're communist in their ideology. So their plan is the demise of our country and to make it look more like Venezuela or Cuba, which doesn't look very appetizing to me.
Yeah, it truly is scary. When we get back from the other side of the break, I want to talk about what we can do about this. But in the last minute that we have left or so, Peggy, why are these forces being allowed to run around and commit crimes and burn down cities and shoot at cops? I mean, what's going on here? The Department of Justice just pretends to not see any of this. Why is this happening?
The DOJ was heavily infiltrated, the FBI and the CIA. And I know this sounds like conspiracy. Well, I'm afraid it probably is conspiracy. The reality is that Obama had his shadow government set up, and he did a good job of it. He didn't move very far away from the Capitol building, and they started it then, and they want to complete it. They smell blood in the water.
Yeah. And never forget, folks, Barack Obama started his political career in the home of Bill Ayers, the founder of a terrorist movement taking orders and money from communist Cuba that, according to Larry Grathwohl, who infiltrated the leadership, intended to invite in hostile foreign powers, the Russians, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, to occupy parts of our country, and then eventually set up re-education camps. And according to Larry Grathwohl, exterminate as much as 10% of the American population. Folks, these people are dead serious. We're going to be back on the other side of this break with more from Peggy Mast. Spent 20 years in the Kansas legislature, finally retired after serving as Speaker pro tem. And she's going to have much more. We're going to find out what we can do about this as citizens and as a nation to get control of our country back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Conversations That Matter, everybody. I'm Alex Newman, your host, senior editor at the New American Magazine. Very special guest with us today, Peggy Mast, served 20 years as a state legislator, got really interested in some of what was going on in Kansas. And of course, it's not unique to Kansas. This is happening all over our country. So we've been talking about pro-abortion terrorism, efforts to intimidate our Supreme Court justices, burn down and firebomb crisis pregnancy centers and things. And of course, as Peggy pointed out, this is part of a much larger problem. These people have allies in the jihadist movement, in the LGBT movement, the socialist, the internationalist movement. They all seem to be working toward the destruction of our country. Peggy, I want to turn now to possible solutions. Obviously, normal people in America, mainstream Americans, doesn't even matter, liberal, conservative, they're concerned about some of the things that we are seeing. And the obvious question is, what can we do about it? First, as a society, I mean, what should our government be doing? What should our institutions be doing to deal with this, this crisis that we're facing as a country?
Well, and I just want to remind us that we were formed to be a government of, by, and for the people. And I personally, at my age, hold partial responsibility for the fact that we started abdicating our responsibilities and giving them to the government a long time ago, taking free stuff and thinking that it was free, and not realizing that we were actually leading to this. And we thought that maybe the national government was going to be able to save us. Let's get one good national leader, and I would say Trump really inspired a lot of people. So did Ronald Reagan. I mean, he came in at a time where we were looking to restore integrity in America, and we were looking to have a conscience and wanting to love our country. And but it's not, the federal government is not the answer. It's we, the people, that is the only answer. We were given the opportunity. I kind of quoted before Benjamin Franklin saying that they gave us a republic if we could keep it, but we have to work to keep it. And that means starting at the local level. That means putting a priority of protecting your family and your family's future by getting involved in local politics. Every office matters. And you think about the other group, or groups that are really trying to lead America down. They want to destroy America, and they want to destroy it from within. And they're willing to do anything right now in order to accomplish that goal. So what we need are we elect people that believe in America, that have a strong faith in God and country, and are willing to stand together, which is something that we don't do very well. I'm a Republican. I always thought of Republicans as being the independent party in regards to, we have a variety of different thoughts, and we fight amongst ourselves instead of standing together and saying, wait a minute, we're not the enemy. And I'm not saying all Republicans are good too. I'm very embarrassed by the fact that the Republican Party has fallen over and laid down on its back and wanted to compromise over and over again the very ideals that our country was founded on. And so this is where, we need to protect our family. We need to make sure that they're not being indoctrinated by the school system and trained to actually hate our country, taught false history. I once checked out a book as a legislator. No one else had checked it out of the state library. And it was Columbian History of Education in Kansas. And I thought, how could someone have written, a history book of education in Kansas in the 1800s? I found it to be extremely fascinating because there was only one superintendent of schools in the entire state of Kansas. And that superintendent was a circuit riding preacher he rode his horse from one school to the other to take the census and to ensure that every school was teaching the Bible and biblical principles. The first two universities in Kansas were Kansas State University and the Normal School in Emporia, Kansas. They were both dedicated to teaching biblical principles. Think about Harvard. Think of our great colleges. They were founded on Christian principles. And look where we've allowed them to go. And we're still sending our kids to a place that is a poisonous, toxic environment for young students today. And Adolf Hitler said, you give me a child until they're the age 5, I will control them for the rest of their life. And the government's been trying to take over our children from age 3 for quite some time. You know, they want all the daycare centers now to be licensed by the government, and then they're going to be indoctrinating the young children. So we have to take responsibility that we've been given, and we need to be willing to sacrifice. We need to be willing to sacrifice everything and to stand with others and to teach. Understanding the threat was easy for me to join because the first thing that John Guandolo, who heads it up, said, you know, you're an elected official. You took an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution. What are you doing about it? And that was a turning point for me. Why can we take something like that so complacent? Every elected official swears an oath to the Constitution, unless you happen to be Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib and you put your hand on the Quran instead of the Bible, which is absolutely, I can't understand. That's ludicrous, because the Quran is actually foreign law, Sharia law. You cannot be loyal to Sharia law and the Constitution at the same time, because they're so diametrically opposed to each other. So I think that this is the only way, and we stand together. I had a lady that went through the training. So we teach and train. We do 3-day trainings. We do 2-week trainings, train the trainer, in order for you to understand the threat, and then for you to understand how to articulate the threat to your neighbors. And then you can understand how you can train other people to be equipped and to stand together. This lady was from Seattle, Washington, and she took the training via Zoom during the COVID crisis. And she said, okay, Antifa has destroyed downtown Seattle. Now they're coming into the suburbs. How do I protect my family? And I said, well, you need to contact your local sheriff, and you need to get your neighbors together. You need to say, okay, look, we elected you to protect us. We will stand behind you and your officers, because our law enforcement needs to know that we will stand behind them when they stand for what's right. And they're being threatened by Antifa, that the law enforcement should be protecting Antifa now. I mean, come on, really. So, but for us to have a good, solid sheriff, make sure you know your individual sheriff, invite him into your home, pledge your loyalty to him protecting you and others, and stand together with them. Get your neighbors to stand together, create a neighborhood watch. And her response was, well, my sheriff is an LGBT, very liberal woman. And I said, you better move out of Seattle, but this is what we need to do. We need to be educated about who the enemy is, what the enemy's plans are. We need to be able to educate other people. And I know oftentimes people don't want to hear the truth, but it's the truth that sets us free, right? So that's what we stand on. And I want to encourage everyone to check out our website, understandingthethreat.com, and consider, having a training even come to your community if you can get people organized. But know that this is something that's a growing threat in our country, and we have to stand together. We need to be organizers ourselves in regards to protection of others, and to be loyal, maintain our loyalty to our country. So, and every election matters. Don't look at what a politician's going to give you. Look at what a politician's willing to sacrifice for our Constitution, and support them.
Yeah, wonderful words of wisdom, Peggy. I want to thank you so much for all of your service to Kansas and to your country. And thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom with us. These issues are just critical. So hopefully we'll get you back on soon. We've had John Guandolo on several times doing some phenomenal work educating people on the threat of Marxist movements and jihadist movements in this country, and even how they're working together, folks. And now we see the latest manifestation, the pro-abortion terrorism wreaking havoc in our communities, firebombing legislators, firebombing crisis pregnancy centers that try to help women dealing with a crisis situation. It's just unconscionable what's happening, and the stakes could not be higher. So folks, go check out Understanding the Threat. Go check out Peggy Mast. She's been in this fight for a long time, doing incredible work, and we need many, many more people just like her if we're going to save our country and turn the ship around. I'm Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter for the New American Magazine. Thank you all. Until next time, God bless you.